How's it going, everyone? Vince here with On to the Next podcast. This is episode 14, and it's actually going to be another solo episode. I have a few different topics that I wanted to talk about that have been on my mind this week. So I hope you enjoy. This is On to the Next.
It's been a long time coming. They ain't cuffing my clock, they tugging it. Putting up numbers, 99 pounds, and I still kept it 100. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. They ain't cuffing my clock, they tugging it.
All right, everyone. This is, like I said, episode 14. Just me. So I am going to talk about a few things. For one, thank you guys for just tuning in to the last episodes. It's been a fun journey. And I tell you what, it's true what they say, that something you really do love, it almost comes effortless because if you love it that much. But at the same time, whatever you love does not always come easy, because you're fighting for something that you really want to do, and the path and the journey is not always easy. It's like, you're in that, you're stuck in that spot sometimes, going back and forth. I don't know if you've ever seen that Austin Powers movie, and he's kind of in that golf cart going back and forth, trying to get the other direction. Sometimes it feels like that, but that's how life feels sometimes, guys. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that, because this whole time in my life has been a new journey for me. And and when I always talk about being fully transparent and authentic in what I'm talking about, and that's what I want to be with you guys. And transparency is, there's things that we all go through in our life, and the challenges and things that we just have in our daily lives, whether it be family, work, just little things that can really get to you. I was able to go out to Colorado a couple weeks ago, and one of my, well, all three of my good friends, Joe LeBeau and Carlos, they got to kind of experience some of the things that were going on with me. And, it was so cool that we have these people in our lives sometimes, because my buddy LeBeau, which, that was the whole reason why we went out there for his birthday. But the other day he calls me and he's like, "Man, you good?" And I'm like, the general answer is always, "Yeah, I'm good." But sometimes we're not good. Sometimes we just give these general answers because it's like it seems too hard to explain, or we don't want to show our it's almost like a weakness. We feel like those problems are our weaknesses, and we don't want to convey them sometimes. And I did text him back, and I told him, "Man, thanks for asking if I was good that day, because I wasn't good that day, and there's things that I am going through, but daily we have to remind ourselves of the things that are helping push us through any little thing that we're going through." So and the other day I put a verse up on my social media feed. It was out of the book of Ephesians, and it talks about not letting anything unwholesome come out of our mouths, and to help others, to build up others according to their needs, and sometimes we find ourselves like doing that. We want to make everybody else feel good, but I think that is so true to us also. And another like great person in my life is my sister. We always talk back and forth, always encouraging each other. And I was just having a down day, and it was actually the day after, because I don't know if you guys have the Bible app. I was looking at it in the morning, and it's the verse of the day pops up, and that was the verse of the day. It's Ephesians 4:29, and it really hit me, not because trying to build up others, but we also got to build up ourselves sometimes, and that hit me hard too. And so she's trying to build me up, and she actually did. I mean, my sister always gives me the right words. She always tells me the right words, and I'm so thankful for her. And when she does that, and sometimes we come across to each other like, get up, stop crying about your issues, because that's what big brothers or big sisters do, and that's what siblings do to each other sometimes. Sometimes we just need to be upfront and say, hey, just stop your crying, get up, shake it off, and move forward, And she was kind of giving me that, and I was like, man, I really need to do that. And when I got that verse the next day, and it's like, because like what I gave her was something that was like, I just feeling defeated, but I just thank her so much for just, kind of, we need that tap or that slap in the face and saying, hey, wake up and get moving forward, whether anything we're going through, So like I said, I said it the last time I had a solo podcast about God putting dependable people in your life, and she's definitely one of them. So like I said, I thank you guys for listening. I kind of wanted to talk about a couple things. A couple things have been on my mind lately about our like seeking some of the things in our lives. How are we getting to some of these places in our lives? And it really hit me. I had Nathan Sanford on the other day. We were talking about the spiritual realm of some of the things that he is blessed with, his gifting of, like, really seeing, being prophetic, and that's kind of his gift, and being able to see a lot of things. But I really believe that when people are prophetic and able to see a lot of those things, they're totally open to what God is giving them, and I honestly believe for them to be in full alignment with it, they're like totally shut off to the evil in their lives, trying to come in their lives. And I almost look at it as like, yeah, I always think about how Hollywood has gotten things right so many times with the good versus evil, you know, and how some of the things that they have put in their movies. One of my favorite series of movies is Star Wars. It's totally based off of good versus evil, and I really believe, sometimes I think, man, how does Hollywood get these like illustrations right, but then you see so much evil come out of that city, and that's hard to see. And I know there's some things that are good that come out of there, but it's so discouraging when you see some of the people doing it. That's why I always go back to not depending on people to put certain things in your life. Don't depend on people, depend on God to put people in your lives, even situations, because I believe, what I'm trying to say is that, sometimes when we allow some of that good, and when we allow like the evil in our lives, sometimes we get to the point where all those things that coming at us, anxiety, depression, whether it be addictions, anything, they become so much easier to come at you when you allow those things in your life. And that really hit me this week because I'm like, man, I really need to work on getting closing, and I almost look at it as like portals. We have these portals that we allow in for evil or good in our lives, and when we start allowing opening those portals to evil or good in our lives, we end up all those things that we're basing our life off of. You're not going to be successful in what you're doing. Anxiety, depression. I've talked about addictions in this podcast. We open those things, and we're closing off our portal of God and allowing Him in our life. Our spiritual life becomes non-existent when we start opening those things up. And it's sad when some people, they they take they take those things, and the gifts that God has given them, they start basing them around all those evil things in their life. And I honestly believe that it's even to the point where you allow it to start affecting your family. Those things start feeding into your family, to your kids, to your wife, and or husband or parents or anything. And that's why we really got to be careful of allowing those things in our lives. And I think that scripture, it it really hit me because you know when we allow those things in our life, we start speaking words to people in our lives, to our wives, to our kids, that those kind of things start affecting them. The things that we start talking about, whether it's talking about your depression, talking about your anxiety, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't talk about them with our spouse, because we should have open conversations with them. But I'm talking about, like, my life is never going to change. I'm the worst person in the world, or telling them, like, you're a horrible person. You do nothing but bring me down. Those are the things, when we start speaking those words into somebody, that all those things start opening up. You start opening up those portals of evil, and it starts coming in and affecting every part of your family. And the reason why I say this is because I've been I guess I've been part of it, where I've allowed that to come in my home. And it's it's a daily job to stop from doing it. Stop from opening up those things into our lives and allowing them to affect everything about our lives. And sometimes it's really hard to do. And I think even in this time, like, when you have people that are in your life that are asking you, are you good? Are you okay? And I think allowing yourself to say, well, thanks for asking. I'm not the best right now, but I think God has put you there to help me through this, and because this life it's challenging, guys. There's nothing easy about it. I don't care if you're the richest person in the world. I always think about, like, Steve Jobs at the end of his life, where he would have given everything up to spend more time with his family. And we always think about, sometimes I think we get too carried away in thinking about money being the most successful part of our lives. How did we end our lives? Well, how much money did he have in the bank towards the end of his life, or in this current? We look at that sometimes too much as that being success, and that could be a part of the driving factor of, I'm not successful, I'm not this and that. But I think looking into some of the things we've done in our life, for our families, or with our families, or for ourselves, being a part of, I know so many people that are out there that are so good, that give so much of themselves to other people. They feed themselves into so many people. I've been thinking about a lot of the people, even on my podcast. I pray for them daily. I think about my buddy Ace, who, he's right now, not doing he's not doing what his passion is, and that's being up on stage singing, using his tool that God has given him. But he's out there, stewarding to into kids' lives, into the theater, helping his wife right now, being a tool for his wife, literally. And I look at that so much, and I'm like, man, it just, that it's because, we as people, though, we look at that and we're like, man, I'm not succeeding in life right now because it's not the way I want it to look. And there's a lot of me that is like, that's every single day. And that's why all this stuff has been on my mind this week, about not being able to, feel like, well, I might as well not move forward because a lot of the things in my life aren't moving forward the way I want them to. And I talk about the vehicle that has going back and forth and not moving forward the way we wanted to. But it's sometimes, the patience of doing something and seeing it actually work out, because, they talk about how a diamond is perfected. It's grinded out over an allotted amount of time, and the more time, the more precious it becomes. And I always think about how, we need to look, as far as being able to move forward, is being able to look at the process of doing something. And I think in all of this, I always feel like, well, Vince, you're just talking to yourself, because sometimes I have to. Like I said, is putting those words into work, not, having any unwholesome talk to myself as well, because, and that's why it's so important, because having that own unwholesome talk to yourself starts to become having the unwholesome talk to your family, to the people around you, to the people at work. And, it hurts me to see when people get in that situation. So, this, I guess this is just kind of an encouragement of, I kind of covered about, the good and the evil of what we allow on our lives. And there's so much more of it. I do listen to a lot of podcasts. I was listening to a podcast, I believe it's Sean Ryan with Tim Tebow. And if you ever get a chance to listen to that, because, if I hear a good podcast, I'm going to put it out there for other people to listen to. But Tim Tebow was talking about I love that man. He's such a man of God, and, such an example for believers of what to do, how to walk through your life, because his whole life has been in missions and doing for others. But he also has said, there was times in my life where I got caught up in wanting to do for myself, and got caught up into me being, greater than the purpose. And, I really believe that what he's doing now, is the purpose is so big that he has fully taken it on. And, and that was a whole part of, me thinking about allowing those evil things into your lives, because he was talking about, the the trafficking that has taken place in the world today, and how it's become such, it's become, such an evil that's in, not only in the United States. It's like we're like one of the worst out of all the world of either whether it be child trafficking or child I don't even know if I'm allowed to say it on this podcast, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about, is allowing those things to come into your life, allowing those thoughts to come into your life, into your house. I really believe that those things will affect your whole family. And I really discourage anybody to look at any of that stuff, because man, he dove deep into it, and I really encourage you to go on. It's the Sean Ryan podcast, and it's the one with Tim Tebow. So if you have a chance, go and listen to that one. And that one really hit me about allowing evil into your life, allowing good into your life, and how it affects you. And I believe that Tim has allowed so much good in his life. It's allowed him to focus on getting rid of a lot of the evil in this world. And I really believe that we as people, I think about it all the time, because I believe, me as a father, it's my responsibility to allow good into my home, allow God into my home. When I talk about good, I'm talking about God into my home, allowing the Holy Spirit to work into my home, because I think when I allow that into my home, things seem more aligned when I'm with my family, when I'm talking to my family, when my family's out in the world doing their work, doing their school, whatever. I feel more at ease and more at comfort, because I believe that God is working in our lives, and I'm work daily to close that portal of evil in our lives, because I don't want it to be a part of us. And I encourage you guys to really think about that, closing that evil portal in your lives, because it's I can't express the importance of it. And everybody who I've had on my podcast has conveyed some sort of allowing or not allowing, being a good steward in their lives, or closing that out of their lives. And it takes work. It takes work daily. It is not easy. But that's some of the things. These are some of the things that have been on my heart and on my mind lately, because I think daily, a lot of those negative thoughts, those evil thoughts and everything, they try so hard to be part of our lives. And I encourage you to consistently work on it. Embrace the people around you who are there for you. Like I said, it was so amazing being able to see the guys a couple weeks ago, and just being around them, because you have a support system. I have me and my wife, being able to just, sometimes we take for granted just giving each other a hug sometimes. The other day I was a little frustrated, and I come home, we're kind of in a rush. My daughter, she is actually moving on to her next, and I'm so proud of her. And I really wish she would come on the podcast with me, but she thinks I'm lame. So no, I'm just joking. She doesn't. But it would be so cool to have her on the podcast to kind of talk about her next. But she is graduating, and it's such an amazing thing to see your children grow in that. But I'm kind of got off track. But anyway, I get home. We're in a rush because we're going out to watch her do a walkout. Her last day of going out of the doors of her school, and we're in a rush. I'm grabbing stuff. My wife comes to give me a hug, And it's like I almost just give her a high five and say, "Hey, we gotta go." She's like, "What are you doing?" I just wanted a hug. And sometimes we take for granted those hugs, those moments, and whether it be our wives, our kids. I've felt more sentimental to give even my son a hug, because as dad and son, you kind of just want to be like, "Oh, what's up?" Pound, um, dab it up, But man, just being able to give your son a hug, and we always say, me and my wife say, my daughter, my wife, she's like always wanting to give my daughter a hug, and my daughter's like, "No, stop, get away." 'Cause my daughter's like, "I just want to hug you," because you give the best hugs. Because my daughter she gives the best hugs, and so we're I like I said, a lot of things around just taking not taking those things for granted, you know, pulling in some of the things that I was talking about using your words, using your actions to do better for yourself, for one. And I honestly think, and I'm going to tell you what I think it is, and it's for me, it's reflecting with God, spending my time with God. I think even doing this, sometimes I do another podcast with my friends called the Kings of Monaco, and that's a part of me being able to release some of the things. And I always say that the best time for me, one of the most enjoyable times for me is daily, when I do get to have dinner, like all of us at the dinner table, and just being able to sit around and talk. Those are some of my favorite times, and allowing that good in our lives, and trying to get outside of the evil that always wants to be a part of our lives, because there's plenty of it out there. And I encourage you guys just to take those moments, because they are so important. And and I know they're important to our kids, because I think of me as a kid, those times were important also, of having those times, those hugs, those moments in our life that they're important. And I think for our kids, they will carry on for them in their lives and help them move on to the next. Those are some of the things. So, guys, thanks for listening. This is a short one, but I'm going to have some amazing guests coming on. There's some people that I have lined up that I can't wait for you guys to hear. Some of my friends still. I'm going to have some repeat guests, but I'm so, I am so thankful for you guys listening to this. And if you're listening for the first time, hit that subscribe button, and I appreciate that so much, because that's the way this grows. So thank you, and we will see you next time on to the Next.
Play, 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 play. Put on, yeah.